BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and so last week I said, I don't know if it was actually last week, but my last video, I said that I didn't want to do TBRs, but I did want to do a pile of possibilities, or at least I was thinking about doing that, and I was hesitant, but then I was reminded about that idea from Luminous Libro Kaylee's channel, where she did her list of books that she wants to read for the books that are possible reads for the next 2 months. Now, I imagine it's probably easier for her to get through all those books because a lot of them are middle grade, maybe some young adult. And then, I know she's doing a Rick Riordan read along right now, and then kids books. So, I think that's, since those are mixed in there, that's probably why she can get through a lot of more books than I can, because I don't read. A lot of my books are, almost all my books now are adult books. On the rare occasion, I will still read a YA book, but most cases it's adult books, so they're gonna take me longer unless I pick some shorter books, or plays and stuff. But I do have a couple plays, well, one play I should say, and then a couple of short books from the publishing company, New York Review. I cannot remember what it's called, but I actually saw someone on BookTube recently who also collects those books, so that was really cool. But anyway, I also just got back from the Outpost Bookshop, so I will show you those books. I actually got more than 3 books. Only just one more than 3 books, but I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna get them. I really should have got some hardcover books because there was a buy one get one free, and there were a couple, like 1 or 2, but then it's still the same price. It's still $5, and that means I would have to limit how many paperbacks I get. So, I don't have to, but I don't want to go overboard. Anyway, so first, let's do the part that is going to take the longest, which is the pile of possibilities. So first, currently I'm reading a nonfiction. I'm almost done with the history of Japan. And it's really hard to talk about because there's so much information. It's so dense, so detailed. It does give a lot of great information, and it encompasses all of the history of Japan, which I think is the risk of writing a book like this if you're trying to encompass a whole history. Even a country as young as the U.S., it's not that young. It's not that young, but compared to Japan or countries in Europe, it's pretty young. And it's still a lot of information, and I don't think you can cover it all in one volume. But, these guys did do it, Mason and Kager, but still a lot. And it's hard for me to talk about because, and maybe part of the problem is I should have tried to be a little more active in, annotating the book a little bit, marking up, taking notes. But I'm still trying to get into that build that habit, and I'm really struggling with it. Especially, and then, I don't know what I should mark up, and I was reminded of this when I was already in the middle of the book, so it's hard for me to do it get into the rhythm of doing that when I'm in the middle, because, I'm thinking about all the stuff that I should have marked up in the other hundreds of pages. But it's still good. I just think it might be not the best place to start. I don't think it's for beginners, which, I'm one of those beginners, so I think I kind of wish I had started somewhere else. Or maybe, it does give me motivation, as other reviewers said, to look at other topics, or specific topics. I would love to look up more about the Heian period, which is where the Pillow Book is from, or there's, you know, the Nara period. I mean, any one of these sections would be really, I think, interesting to focus on. Or, you know, the religions, because there are multiple religions that they, I mean, now I think, according to my dad, they are, because he knows a bit about Japan, and he's been there a couple times. He said that right now their main religion is Shinto. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I don't know Japanese, so I don't know how to pronounce words like that. I mean, I'm really struggling. I mean, as I said before, unless I hear it out loud, then I'm not gonna. And even then, I have to hear it several times before it sticks in my head. But they were Buddhist, and there was one more religion that they also practice, that there were people that practice in this time in the history of Japan. So that would be also interesting to learn about, like the different religions and how they finally went down to Shinto, how they finally stuck with that religion. And of course, when Christianity showed up, you know, I'm a Christian, but the Christian religion was back in, you know, they're not. They were really aiming to create the Christianity wanted an, it felt like they wanted an empire themselves. So I mention this because two of the books, I mean, I guess in a way, unless you count this one as, you could count, I guess, because this is a diary, this is also kind of this is actually nonfiction too, if you think about it, because it's this woman's diary. It's not exactly a story of her life, like it's not a memoir or anything, but it's her observations about courtly life and her thought, you know, and one little part, you know, in parts of it she talks about her favorite seasons and her thoughts on, you know, what she thinks is rude and annoying, and, you know, her interactions with other members of the court and all that kind of stuff. So I guess this is nonfiction as well. So yeah. So this will be one of the nonfictions I want to get to, and probably will pick up this again after I finish with this. But the other two that I would like to pick up before the end of the year, or at least come back to, I mean, I don't know, there's no guarantee, because, like, this is a pretty general, let me see how many pages is this. I mean, this is a biography, so, of Jefferson's life. So it's not exactly, and biographies take me a lot longer. Yeah, it's like I mean, all the reference, the index, the last page of the index is 708. Now the last, like, notes are in the 600. So let me see, where's the last? Okay, so 595. So it's a 500 plus page book, almost 600 pages if you only count the reading, the actual biography part, because this last chunk is like a bibliography, like, you know, notes and index and all that kind of stuff. But I've already started it, so like, it's probably been now over a year, and I need to pick it back up again. I want to finally finish another presidential biography, because I've only had one under my belt, and that is John Adams, the David McCullough one. And I want to get the other one. I don't remember. It might be the same author. I don't know. I'll have to double check on that. But there's also a John Adams life biography as well. And I don't know if it's the same author or it might be a different author. But I'm hoping to get that one as well. That one's on my wish list. And then the other nonfiction is The Plantagenets by Dan Jones, and I cannot remember who I heard talking about this. There was someone on BookTube who mentioned this, or no, it was actually it wasn't even on BookTube. It was a podcast. Which, even though, yeah, I think YouTube and podcasts do count as social media. I was just thinking about, like, I do have books that I got from specific people on YouTube, and then some people on podcasts now. And I would love to do, and I only bring I bring it up because there's a new channel that I just started watching. Rachel Ann or something is her name. The algorithm recommended one of her videos to me, and she did a vlog where she was reading books. Like, she picked 3 books that were not recommended, that weren't social media recommended. And I was just thinking about that, and I was like thinking, do I have any books like that? Do I have any, or are all my books recommended by social media? And I was thinking there were books like this, but then technically, yes, these books and some of my other, like The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, were technically still social media recommended, even if they were YouTube recommended, BookTube recommended, or that's still social media. So, and podcast. But I've been meaning to pick this up, and I don't want to lose momentum on my Tudor medieval interest, phase I'm experiencing right now. I don't want to lose momentum, so I want to pick this. I definitely want to pick this up before the end of the year as well. Like, this one, actually, this one could technically, I could take this into January if I wanted, if I don't finish it, because I have a couple other bigger books over here, like, that I want to read as well. So this one might be taken into January. Okay, so this next pile are books that are, more like books that I definitely should consider picking up in the next 2 months. And, I mean, this technically should just be my TBR. And it's partly because of, other people. If, I'll explain as I go through each book. But here are the books. It's 4 books. Okay, so first we have. Okay, so remember I had a book haul of books that were given to me. I didn't buy them, but they were given to me by my aunt. That included The Art of Racing in the Rain, which I did read this past summer, and Where the Crawdads Sing, which I intended to read during the summer, but I ended up not getting to that one. I decided I wasn't going to read it. My parents did watch the show, though. And before I gave it away, I actually asked my mom if she was interested in reading it, and she said, oh, yeah, I probably should. And so it's in her room at the moment. But I'm just not as interested in it, in all honesty. But this one is the one I was actually interested in from my aunt's collections of books that she was going to give away. And this is... So, and I meant to read it. And I want to get to it before the end of the year. I mean, this might be a winter book. But this is another World War II novel. It's set in... It has a dual timeline, and part of the book takes place in Berlin in 1939, and then the other part is New York 2014. And I'm always looking for German books that aren't just about the extermination of the Jews and the genocide of the Jews and everything, which I think that's an important issue, and I'm not saying we shouldn't. But there are so many books about that, about that I'm always looking for little niche aspects of, of World War II history. Now, this is probably not a niche, because it's about, Germany was the Nazis were the big bad. And, so although, we can't blame Germany itself, of course, because we blame the Nazi Party. And, I mean, even though they were German, I feel like it wouldn't be right to blame all of Germany because, you know, they were manipulated by Hitler. Of course, I'm not an expert or anything. I haven't been studying that topic. I'm just, so don't go come at me or anything if you think, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Because yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm just from what I know about World War II, and I don't know a lot, but I'm willing to learn. So yeah, I've been trying to, I want to kind of learn about the German experience, what the regular Germans and their experience of World War II, what they were, did they all side with the Nazi Party, or were some of them against them? I know the Jews that lived in Germany probably obviously did not side with the Nazi Party, but so I feel like I need to, and this is in my pile of books I have on my floor, and I'm also trying to get through some of those books in November, at least a couple of those books in November, because my cousin is coming for Thanksgiving, and she and her husband are going to be staying in my room for the night, so I'm trying to, so my mom doesn't like, okay, put them on yourself or get rid of them. But anyway, so I want to get to this. And then we have, so now this one I feel really bad about, because at least the gift from my aunt, it's not like the book that I got from my aunt was she just randomly gave me some books. So it wasn't like she purchased those books for me. Like this one. This one was purchased by the wife of my dad's friend, and they gave it to me, and she gave it to me. She actually purchased it for me because she knew I would like to read. And I still haven't, and that was back in last summer, at the end of summer, I think. And I was, my mom and I talked about, you should, read it and then thank her for it, because she's bought it for you, and I still haven't got to it yet, and I feel really terrible. I feel so bad about it. So I feel like this is definitely one. I mean, it's probably more of a summer read, but summer's over, I'm not gonna wait a whole year to read this, because like I said, I feel guilty and feel like, okay, I need to read this and write her, let her know how much I appreciate it, that she spent, she bought this book for me, and tell her, and hopefully I'll like it. I mean, most likely I will like it. It may not be an all-time favorite, but it may or may not, it could be still, but I at least can tell I appreciate it. So yeah, I definitely need to get to this one so I can finally, read and let her know of this one. Okay, and then we have, so this one is kind of sort of indirectly is connected to the book by Dan Jones, because this is about one of King Henry's wives. King Henry VIII's wives, Anne Boleyn, the most famous one, the one that everybody knows about, probably due to Philippa Gregory's her book and the movie based off of her book. But this is Alison Ware's version of that story. And I already read Catherine, and I don't want to make the same mistake I made with the Philippa Gregory series, and buy books, Harvard, The Constant Princess, and then the other Bowling Girl, but then I never got around to reading the book. Now, as I've said before, at the time, I was just not into that subject as much. So now I'm a little more into it, so I'm more motivated. And I also, during my last third books purchase, I did buy the third book in hardback, so which normally I don't do, but surprisingly, the hardback was less expensive than the paperback. I don't know why, but and that was on Thrift Books. That was not on Amazon, not Books A Million. That was on Thrift Books. So, and I love the purple. I always love the color purple. But this is her take on Anne Boleyn and her story. And I want to get to this soon. so that I can jump into book 3 and then buy book 4. And I do have them on my wish list for the next 2 books. And then so the last one is actually has to do with my mom, because first, the first time I heard about this series was Terry. She really liked it. I don't remember if she said that she had read the books and watched the show, or if she had just watched the show. I don't remember. But she was the first person who brought it up to me, and at the time I was thinking, I went having a line about thinking, I don't know, maybe. And then not realizing, I don't know if you guys remember me hauling this, but I did haul one of the books from the series, The Twisted Sword. But that was the 11th book, and at the time, I was deciding, I don't know if I want to read this or not, because then I'm going to have to buy all the books in the series, and there are so many in that it's 12 book series, so I have a lot of the books now, including this one. This is the first book. It's the Poldark series by Winston Graham. This is about a guy. It's set in the 1700s. This guy, he was in a war. I don't know which war it would have been at the time. I guess it might have been the Revolution. I wonder if it had been the American Revolution. But anyway, he comes back home all set to retire and relax and marry the love of his life, Elizabeth. But then it turns out she's married to his cousin. She's married to his cousin because she was thinking he was dead. And it's kind of, and his dad is gone, his dad is dead, and so he kind of has to start over with life. And he meets another woman whom he had rescued because these guys were attacking her or something. And he protects her, and it's kind of it's a drama about his life and about, his relationship with this new woman. And my parents were watching the show, so that's why it has to do with why this is about connect to my mom, is because her and my dad were watching the show, and I remember being somewhat interested in it, thanks because Terry brought it up. And finally, and so I saw them watching, and I said, I was kind of interested in that, and we started talking, and I said that I have seen some of the books from the series at the Outpost, and I mentioned that I had one of the books from the series, and my mom thought that was a little silly, that I sort of was interested in it, and I gave that book away when I should have kept it if I was interested in the series in any capacity. I think it was more she didn't want me to have to be constantly spending money buying books in all the series. So, which fair enough. And luckily, the last time there, during Oktoberfest, there was actually the Outpost had a sale where they had a bunch of books out on a table outside that were, the price slowly decreased. They went from $3 to $2 to $1 within the next few hours. And luckily, some of the books that were out there were a handful of books from the series. So I bought a few of them. There's only a few more that I need to get from the series. And at the time, I'd already ordered books 2, because books 1 and 3, because they did not have those books at the Outpost at the time. Now, this is not I would have preferred the cover that I got for with the other books, but this one was a little bit, or actually I think they were out of stock on thrift books of the other versions, and I was I wanted to get it so I could start the series. So I just got this one, and I need to. My mom was like, oh well, you better get them so you can start reading the series. And so she, so I was like, okay, I'll get the at least 2 of them from their books. So I don't have book 4 though. So I'm hoping that one is on my list. I'm hoping I'll get book 4 at some point. Hopefully my mom will remember and notice that book on there. So these are books that are probably the most mandatory reads, books I definitely should get to. Okay, so the rest of these books are more like books that it's, that, yeah, I probably should, but there's no rush to get to them. I mean, some of them, yeah, there's a little bit more of a rush than others. Like, for instance, we have the Portable Dante, which has the Divine Comedy, which is Inferno, Purgatorio, and I can't remember what's the last one, Paradiso. His epic, famous poem about this guy who travels the seven circles of hell and gets all the way to paradise, which is basically heaven. And the Catabasis, okay, I'm just gonna say Catabasis because I've heard another pronunciation, but now I don't remember what it was. That one is kind of Arth Kwong's retelling of Inferno, because like they're in the plot of that one is that these college students, their professor has been sent to hell, and so they have to go rescue him, their professor, and so they travel through the seven circles of hell and all that. So I want to read this before I read that one, but that one is actually on my wish list though. So figured now might be a good time to get to it. And then I've on Canto 10, but it's been so long since I read it, I don't really remember it. So part of me is tempted to just start over with this, but the problem is, like I said, I've read the first 50. I mean, I'm not halfway. I've only read the first 50 pages. So I don't know. Part of me, I mean, I guess I could look up like Spark Notes or something. Oh, and I do have stuff underlined and all that. Pages folded over, so. But anyway, but this is probably one that I definitely want to get to. Like I said, sooner, this is definite. Or more of a definite. But it's not like, it will more be the guilt, it will be more, it just affects me. It's not like there's anyone else involved, like some of these other books, those ones that I just showed you. Although this one, the Anne Boleyn one, it's really just me again. But like West of Giraffes, the German Girl, and Poldark are more, there's other people that are involved. Not that anyone's gonna be like, get mad at me or anything, but there's gonna be feelings of guilt. Okay, and then we have, well, let me get these three before I talk about these ones. Okay. I'm trying to talk about the ones that are, that. Okay, so then we have, I keep going back and forth between picking up this one, The Talisman, and The Stand. But both The Talisman and Wizard and Glass, I've recently been reading. I've recently picked them up and read. The Stand was one that I read actually I don't know if it was after the pandemic or before it. Actually, I think it was after it started. And I know most people were like, oh, I don't want to read books about the pandemic. But I remember that was around the time Station 11 came out too, because I was going to do the crazy thing of reading Station 11 and The Stand together, and that did not happen because they're so different in length in a really big way. I mean, I don't know which one is longer, it or The Stand, but especially because I have the uncut version. And the thing is, this one is part of a series. The other ones are standalone books. and I keep saying, okay, just pick up one of them. I mean, I even picked up The Dead Zone and Christine. I just went ahead and picked those up because they were shorter. I mean, still chunky books, but shorter than these ones. I mean, I almost wish I had kept, because I decided to donate the Dead Zone to Givens, to the Outpost. So I can't, you guys, I won't be able to show them that book physically to you guys for when I do like wrap up everything I read. But anyway, the thing is, this is part of a series, so I think I'm gonna pick up this one and then pick up one of the other two after I read this one, so I can finally get past this book. This is the 4th book, I think. Yeah, 4. It says it on there, dummy. This is the 4th book, and actually in this one, our main guy, Roland, is telling his quartet, his followers, a story. So it's one of those story within a story kind of novels. And I stopped right before he started telling the story to his quartet, so I need to pick this one up and start reading it again. And then we have, especially with that one, the Dark Tower series, I don't want to start over and reread books 2 through 3 again. I mean, I enjoy the series. I like them, and I'm one of the few people who actually does think The Gunslinger is pretty good. But I don't want to have to do it again, because those are chunky books. I mean, The Gunslinger is the shortest book of the main, unless you count The Wind Through the Keyhole, which is the prequel. And I haven't even read that one yet. Okay, so then we have, and this kind of goes with my Tudor Plantagenet, more Tudor-oriented theme right now. So this is Wolf Hall, Hilary Mantel's first book in her Cromwell trilogy. This is about Thomas Cromwell, a fictionalized version. And I bought it twice now, and I keep meaning to pick it up, and I have started it, so I made a little bit more progress with it. But like I said, it also fits my interest in the Tudor period and the Plantagenet period, so I need to get to it. But the writing style is a little different, a little weird, because it's kind of it's more present tense, and sometimes I don't entirely know what's going on. I mean, I think both Steve Donahue and Shelley Swearigan have said that this is not a good starting point for if you're a beginner to historical fiction, and I kind of get why. Like I said, the writing style being part of it, a big part of it. But I did like it. It's just, I'm gonna get a little confused with it sometimes of what's going on. But this is one I finally need to get back into as well. Basically, and then the last book. Okay, so guys, remember I mentioned that my brother-in-law borrowed this book. I finally got it back earlier this year, like probably during I guess at the end of summer, because that was the last time I saw my brother-in-law before, that's when I last saw him. And he had finished it, so he finally gave it back to me, and I thought this would be perfect for November, because it's America, the Western frontier kind of story. It just, like, it kind of fits this month, especially when this month is all about how we got the land from the Native Americans and tried to, make peace with them, even though we basically gave them all these diseases and killed most of them, if not all of them. But it just feels like a very November, with the whole theme of this being, it is Native American month, and there's not Native American. I think there actually might be a Native American character in this book. I don't know, but I think there is. But this is another chunky book, so along with that is my problem. A lot of these books are chunksters, and I can't read them all one right after the other. And actually, I've been thinking about an idea of doing, which maybe this is basically the same thing as quarterly wrap ups, but doing seasonal wrap ups instead. But the problem is, I'm always, going through books, because I love reading. I don't want to, I'm always excited to get to the next book. So, I got to slow down a little bit. Like, I'm not saying like just like, I can kind of understand those people who want to slow down with their reading because they don't want to. It's just I have so many books on my shelf that I'm trying to read them all, and it's But yeah, okay. So my next set of books is one that I keep saying I'm gonna read. Now, well, one of them is. And that is The Revolution of Marina M., which I think this is more of a winter book. This is the woman who, Janet Fitch, she's the same woman who wrote White Oleander. I did not realize that, but I remember that book because I remember when the movie came out and my mom watching it. And one of the reasons why I was so eager to pick it up is actually because BookTube's very own Steve Donahue blurbed this book, and I keep delaying it because it is again another chunky book, and sometimes I feel like Russian books are more wintry reads, but I need to get to it. I need to finally read it, either that or just decide that it's gonna go back to the Outpost Bookshop, but I really don't want it to unless I give it a fair shot. So, and then we have, okay, so this one was actually a more recent purchase. So the very first podcast I listened to after Sold a Story podcast, talked about that whole battle between the queuing system and hooked on in the phonics, which are two ways of teaching reading, and this new queuing system took over Hooked on Phonics. But it didn't necessarily work. It ends up not really teaching kids to read. It just made assumptions about how kids learned, and didn't work. It's a very interesting podcast if you are interested in the subject. But so another podcast, the second podcast that was actually about literature that I discovered was this one, The Leopard. This wasn't the pod. Let me rewind. So the podcast was on great works of literature. They were talking about 10 works of literature, and I was hoping they would make another season because there are so many great works of literature out there that they could talk about, I think. But they never did. They only did one season. And this was one of the books that they talked about. And I actually was really intrigued by it. And no, it has nothing to do with leopards, the animal leopards. It's actually about the Italian Revolution. And I mean, I'm sure you can tell going by the hat, the crown with the cross and everything on the top. And it is a show. It was adapted into, I think, a show on Netflix, and it's about how the aristocrats of Italy disappeared, got taken. I think the people got rid of them, and it's kind of like the Russian Revolution and Anastasia's family and everything. It made me think of that, or War and Peace or something. And I've been meaning to pick up because I ended up getting it off of Amazon, which that is very rare. In my defense, I know a lot of people have issues with Amazon, and I actually thinking about it, I don't really buy books on Amazon. I mean, the only time I get books from Amazon is if it's because I have an Amazon wish list, but I only get from that's only other people buy books from that for me during my birthday and Christmas. When I'm buying books for myself, I'm going to, the independent bookstore, the country bookshop, or Books A Million down the road, or, going to the Outpost Bookshop. And then when I buy books online, I buy them on thriftbooks.com. But in this case, I just got it off of Amazon. I got this one off of Amazon. Because I do look at Amazon too. But I don't, unless I'm buying for other people or something, I don't buy books on Amazon that often. But anyway, so I want to get to this. I mean, they talk about how great it was and how brilliant it is. So finally, I want to get to it because I bought it earlier this year and I still haven't picked it up yet. And it's not even that long. It's one of the shorter books. Okay, let me put these all down on the floor because they're taking up space. Okay, and then we have some books from series. Okay. Oh, and well, let me just show you this one first. So this is one. So I read the Historian a couple years ago. I read The Historian by Elizabeth Kostovo, and I've been reading. And I had bought her 2 other books. I don't know if she has any other books. And I don't know if she's an American or not. And if she's not an American, then maybe her books haven't come to the U.S. yet. But I need to look it up. Or maybe she's someone like Donna Tartt where she writes a book every 10 years or something. I'll have to look at the dates of when each of these books came out. But, and I decided to pick up. So I have both this one and then her other book, The Swan Thieves. And so I decided to pick up this one. And decided that this will be my next read. And it just, I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why it just felt like a more wintry read. So I might read it next month. But either way, I feel like this is a great, I want to pick up one of her books soon before, and autumn's almost over anyway, so. But I want to pick up another one for books before the end of the year. Her other book. I mean, I don't want to rush it either because there's only one other book that I gotta read, but unless she has more books. I'll have to look her up, see if she has any more books coming out. Yeah, so. And then we have, okay, so these next few books are series books or trilogies. So we have this is about the Raven. This is Stephen R. Lohar's the trilogy, The Raven King, his take on Robin Hood, Stephen R. Lawhead's take on Robin Hood. The first book was Hood. This is book 2, Scarlet. And I bought all the books off of Thrift Books, so again, another one that I don't want to delay anymore. I want to get to. And it's only a trilogy. It's always more embarrassing when it's just a trilogy because I'm like, it's only 2 other books. Although some of them are long, like, The Mayfair Witches is only a trilogy, but like the first book is really long. I mean, the third book is like the longest book in Anne Rice's Mayfair trilogy. The other ones are relatively short. I mean, they're not that short, but they're several hundred pages less than the Witching Hour. So, but the Witching Hour also has a lot of information that she's giving people, like a lot of background on the Mayfair family. So I think that's why it's so long. But anyway. And I'm guessing this is gonna be about the character that's, Stephen R. Lawhead's version of Will Scarlet. And, yep, Wales. So I'm wondering, I was watching, I was listening on Not Just the Tudors podcast. They did a podcast on a famous, figure in I think Welsh history and how he led a rebellion, and I'm wondering if Stephen R. Lawhead was inspired. I don't know how to say the name. I'm not going to say it. It's a G word. I'm not going to bother trying to say it. I don't remember how they pronounced it. But I'm wondering if that was also part of the inspiration. That one, along with Robin Hood, was the inspiration for this trilogy. Because this takes place in Wales. Unlike most adaptations of Robin Hood, are very, the other part of England and are take place in England and Prince John and King Richard, the first King Richard, and the whole Plantagenet period. When this is takes place during the, before that. William the Red, I think, was the guy. Let me see. Yeah, William the Red. And I don't know, and it takes place in Wales, so I'm wondering this series is part of that. Like, I'm wondering maybe that's wrong, and maybe Will Scarlet is inspired for the other guy, was inspired by the other guy, the one in the podcast I was talking about, because I think that's Welsh, but I could be wrong. But yes, there's that one, and then we have another trilogy. This is the Under the Northern Sky trilogy, and this is very much if you are a fan of Bernard Cornwell's. I just saw the series, but his one about that guy Uhtred, it's a Viking. That whatever that series is called. You might like this trilogy. You'll probably like this trilogy. And the first one is about this guy named Roper. And so he's kind of similar to Uhtred a little bit. Except for I don't think there's a Christian king in this one. And this one is where the second one picks up. And I can't really talk about it because, obviously, unless you read The Wolf, this will spoil that if I read the back description. But I just gotta read this one. And then I have Cuckoo, which is the third book. So I need to get to it. That's the other thing. Like, not only is it 3 books, but I have all 3 books in both series. I made sure to buy all 3 of them. So now I have no excuse. And I need to get to these. Okay. 2 more series to go. And then I have another pile of books, and then we're done. Okay, a pile of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think 7 if I counted right. 7 books. But then we also have 8 and 9. So this one is a series that the second book, thankfully, is coming out in January. And this is written by a Native American author, so it definitely would fit November, because it is Native American Heritage Month. And I know that, like, Ellie Brooks has absolutely loved this series and talked about, at least this book. And I was waiting until there was news of book 2, and someone did, I made a comment on her video about that I was nervous to pick it up because I wanted to know that book 2 was coming out. And this person did respond and say book 2 was coming out soon. I don't know if they told me the date, but they said it was coming out soon. It turns out it is coming out in January, so I don't have to wait that long. Although it's going to be hardback, so. And like I said, I try to keep all my books in the series the same. But I did just break the rule with buying the book on Jane Seymour, the third book in Alison Weir's Tudor series. And this one has dragons. This one is a dragon book. And I do love dragon books. I just don't read enough. And no, I'm not going to read that one famous series that just came out. I have no interest in it. I mean, maybe someday, but just because I said maybe doesn't mean you need to, recommend it to me. I've heard of it. Trust me, I've heard that is a very popular series beyond just book talk. I know everyone talks about it on book talk, but beyond that, I've heard other people, like some of the podcasts I listen to, have heard about that book and talk about it. But at the moment, I'm not interested. So, yes, I like books about dragons, but I'm not every dragon book is gonna pull my attention. like, yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but it has to, it has to be someone from BookTube who is a little bit like me about, reading their reading, recommends it, but talks about how great it's, maybe one day, like I said. But anyway, and so not only is it's is a Native American author and a Native American main character, but also the book 2 is coming out in the beginning of next year, the first month of next year. So there's a definite big motivator to pick up this one now. And then last is one that, again, this, just like the Jefferson biography, this will probably be taken into January because I have so many other books here. And that is Wall of Storms, the second book in Ken Liu's Dandelion Dynasty. And again, another one that I've started. I've read a chunk of it. I mean, it might even be the same amount as Wizarding Glass. But again, I fully intend to read at least 2 books from the series. And funny, both these are from long series. And it's just one is the second one. This one is the second book in the series, and that one is the 4th book in the series. So I have a lot more to read if I waited too long and didn't reread that and had to reread the first 3 books again of the Dark Tower series. And this one I would just have to reread 1 book. But I'm planning not to let that happen. So both Wizarding Glass and Wall of Storms I'm gonna get to, if not in November, December, or January. Okay, so then we have, one more pile to go. Let me see if I can reach it, because I'm not organized here. So we have some of my shorter works. Here is the one play I have, A Man for All Seasons by Robert Bolt. So this is a play about Sir Thomas More. So this one kind of goes with my Tudors Plantagenet theme. Sir Thomas More was the author of Utopia, and he was a good friend to King Henry VIII, kind of a spiritual advisor, kind of a big brother to him. And eventually Thomas More, and that was around the time of the Reformation, and the king was, because he wanted to divorce Catherine, marry Anne, his obsession, and the fact that he just wanted, because he was king, and he was like, I want my own religion. I'm sure other people could explain, talk about it more, and it was, sum it up more thoroughly and talking about that it was more than just that. But, this is, I think, about Thomas More and what happened to him, and him losing his head. And this picture of Thomas More looks like a little bit of the painting of Cromwell that I've seen. But Thomas More's looks a little more friendly. He's making a sad face in the picture, but he seems a little less intimidating. But this is a play, and like I said, it fits my theme of the Tudor period, so I definitely want to pick this up soon. I mean, it might be a winter read. But it's also a play, so it wouldn't take me as long as some of these novels would. And then, so these are the 2 books from the New York Review Books, maybe? That publishing company where they publish books that weren't as popular, I guess. So first we have The Liar, Martin A. Hansen, and this is Scandinavian literature, and this teacher falls in love with, so it's Denmark, it takes place specifically. He falls in love with a former pupil, but she's engaged to this other guy, but that guy has just left the island, and he's not coming back until the springtime. It's the winter time, and there's another guy who's into her, this younger guy, so it's kind of an interesting drama. I mean, like, I don't know if it's for me, but I'm gonna try it. It gives me vibes of a lot of, the plot makes me think of other books as well. Like, I'm trying to think of other books where, you know, it was an older man falling for a young woman. That's like I've read other books like that have a similar plot. So this feels more like a winter read, though, because of, you know, I think of Denmark also as more wintry setting. And then The Slaves of Solitude by Patrick Hamilton. This looks like such an 80s style cover. But this woman, it's during World War II, and she goes to, I think, New York during the, I'm trying to remember where, like, I think she leaves her little small town and goes somewhere else and meets a woman that's a little bit, an interesting personality. Like, she's a little more crazy, or not crazy, but just a little more out there. But anyway, I'm trying not to, waste, spend too much time, because this video is probably already pretty long. So these are my shortest ones. Okay, and then we have I remember around October time, I heard this was recommended for one of the prompts, because they had 10 prompts this year for October. And they talked to, and this was one of the ones that was recommended. I don't remember which prompt for it was recommended for. But I wanted to read another one of Charlotte Bronte's works. I've already read Villette, which I thought it was okay. And then, Jane Eyre is still number one for me. So, and this one, the way some of the, October host, the way they talked about this one, I don't remember which person it was that talked about, but it just sounded so intriguing, so interesting, a plot, like very different from her other ones. And it kind of makes me think of Elizabeth Gaskell and some of her novels, where she explores the theme of the industrial age and living in these mill towns and how it affects the class system and everything. And but yeah, it seemed so interesting. And so finally I was thinking, let me pick this one up. Now, unfortunately, the back description doesn't really say much, which is a little annoying, but that's okay. And then, so in this case, I wanted to read another George Eliot. I've only read Middlemarch, and I loved it, which, funnily enough, people say don't start with Middlemarch. And it did take me a while to read it, but I did read and enjoy it very much. And then I read Silas Marner, which is complete opposite, as in it's a lot shorter than Middlemarch. It might be a better place to start, actually. But it was either between this one or Adam Bede, and I almost was tempted to read Adam Bede back in September or October, and I never did, but I was thinking about picking up this one, because I've heard people talk about Adam Bede, but I have not heard anyone really bring up this one, which is Scenes of a Clerical Life. Now, I'm a little apprehensive because I'm worried, what if this one bores me? What if it doesn't intrigue me as much as Middlemarch does? But then, like I said, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this one. And it's basically like 3 stories, and it's all about the lives of clergymen in their communities. It's 3 separate stories, so, and I don't know if they're like just combined or they're seen as separate. I don't know, but originally they were published separately, serially. And I think it'd be interesting, like, learning about religion is so interesting, especially with the way Christianity was so determined to basically take over and convert everybody to Christianity. And this is coming from a Christian person that was born a Christian. But and I'm not trying to say Christianity bad. I'm saying organized religion has its bad parts. Organized religion can be a little bit, people hide behind other people's belief systems as an excuse to control everybody, if you like. And then I got 2 more to go, and then I'll be done. Okay, well, not quite done, because I do want to show you, the 4 books I got. Okay, so then we have, so this one is a little bit shorter. It's not as short as Interview with a Vampire, but it's shorter than The Mayfair, The Witching Hour. And I still haven't picked up that one yet, but this was also a thrift books purchase. And this is The Mummy, or Ramesses the Damned. This is about a mortal mummy. The Egyptian guy from Egypt. I do wonder, I cannot remember if Terry has ever mentioned reading this one, but this would definitely be right up her alley. I mean, I haven't read it yet, but she loves Egypt and is a big fan of, like, the Egyptian period. And I don't know, like I said, I haven't read it, so I don't know how exactly, but I really think, but it might interest her. Although she might have already read it. I don't know. I'll have to ask her about that, if she's read this one. But, I mean, like, I know she's read the Vampire series, his Interview with a Vampire, and Lestat, and although she hasn't read the most recent additions to that series yet. But, we will see. But this is not as long as, like I said, this is a little bit shorter, so part of me thinks maybe I should get this one read first, but then I'm like, oh, I should finish that one, but then I'm like, this one's shorter, and maybe I should read this one, and so I could finally have another Anne Rice book read. But, so I always find myself in that predicament, like, one of their other books is super, I mean, that's what's been going on with Dostoevsky, is that I'm reading Brothers Karamazov, and I started over with because it's been so long since I last picked it up. But it's so long, part of me is tempted to pick up some of his other works, like Demons and the House of the Dead, and I cannot remember what the other one is. But so it's always, do I return to the one and just try to finish the other one, or do I pick up a shorter one so I can feel like, oh, I have another book by that author read, and then I can get back to the longer one. But like I said, I feel guilty because I'm like, oh, but the longer one is the one I started. I should read that one. Anyway, okay, so this one made me think, well, first off, Katie for Books and Things confirmed. Well, okay, well, first, I read the back description at the Outpost Bookshop, bought it, thought it sounded interesting, but then over time I was like, I don't know if I'm really interested in this. Maybe I should just pick it up, which I gotta look at my shelves, because the rule I made for myself is that buy one leaves. But Katie from Books and Things talked about this book and how much she really enjoyed it, so I was like, oh, maybe I should give it another shot and read it. So I kept it, and this one actually makes me think of Poldark, because it's the same time period. Now, I don't know if it's the same. Let's see. Yeah, okay, yeah, so it's the same, not just the same period, but not just the same time period, the same country, England. And I think from what I remember reading in the back description, he doesn't want to talk about his past, but maybe he did some things he's not proud of, and his past is coming back to haunt him, kind of thing, I'm guessing. But it made me think of a little bit, like, it would definitely fit, like, well with Poldark, because I think they're very similar. So that is all the books that I'm thinking about reading. That is my pile of possibilities. I really need to work on narrowing down, but it's very hard because I grab you know, I'm like, oh, I want that one. I want to read that one. Oh, I need to get to that one. And, you know, it's just, I can't narrow it down because I end up with like 20 books. And I'm trying to get some of them read before Thanksgiving. So I have a few weeks left. And I'm almost done with A History of Japan, but then I gotta pick up the Pillow book. And I don't know how long, even though that book does not look that long, it's still gonna take me a little bit of time, and so we will see. These are encompassing the rest of the year. So are there any oh, okay. Let's see. I was gonna ask, is there any books that you guys, do you have books that you possibly would like to read before the end of the year? I would love to know, and please share in the comments. But anyway, so here are the books that I recently got, and there's kind of a theme to them. Okay, so, well, except for one of them doesn't really fit the theme. I mean, oh, I forgot that's in there. Doesn't entirely fit the theme. Okay, so I'll show you that one first. Okay, so this is a case where I actually have another copy of this book, but I have been wanting to get these particular editions of this writer's work. And I say writer because it's actually a playwright, and that is the infamous Shakespeare, and this is Julius Caesar. And I really like these editions. These are the Barnes & Noble editions of Caesar's plays, and I mean, it doesn't cost that much at Barnes & Noble, but we don't have a Barnes & Noble near us, so I don't get to go there that often. I do have a Barnes & Noble gift card I got at the BJ's when we went there. I still haven't used it yet. I do need to use it, but, you know, I was like, let me just grab this, and I will remove my other version. So that's one book I can get rid of, but I'm replacing it with another version. But I really like these because these covers look kind of like what you would see on a on like a poster or something, like, you know, or something, an advertisement in the newspaper of, you know, in the possibly in the time period in the Shakespeare. And I really like this aesthetic, the way these look. It does have some good notes in here. Doesn't have a huge amount of notes, but, and I almost bought the other, they also had Othello. I think it was Othello. Or, yeah, Othello, I think. That in the Folgers edition. And it was not the Massberg, it was the bigger size ones, the regular size ones. And I almost bought that too. I ended up not. Of course, probably later I'm going to change my mind, and then by the time I go back, it's not going to be there anymore. Someone else is going to already buy it. But I mean, I'm okay with the one I got. The one I actually have of that book. So. And not that there was anything inherently wrong with the other version of Julius Caesar, but I kind of like these better. These versions better. So that's one of the books I got. And like I said, this is the one that doesn't entirely have anything to do with the theme. But I did, I should have, oh, you know what? I totally forgot. I should have looked for if there were any Moliere there. But it's probably good that I didn't find any, because that would be like, how do I narrow it down? Because I already struggled. This was actually a pretty good day for finds. Okay, so the last three books are kind of a theme. Okay, so first we have, let me go ahead and show you this. So, again, another, Not Just the Tudors podcast covered the Empress Matilda. I think she was considered the Empress Matilda, who was the first woman who tried to be queen, but they wouldn't let her, and then she only was able to be queen for a brief period of time through her son, eventually. And, this is her story, a fictionalized version of her story. And written by Elizabeth Chadwick. And I was like, you know what, let me buy it. And then maybe eventually I'll get a book about her. An actual biography about the woman. Because there is one that I heard about from Redhead Reading. I think her channel is called, she did a vlog on reading the biography about Matilda. And no, I don't have that one, obviously, but like I said, I figured let me grab this one and read this. And like, I probably could have just not gone this one, and then I would have had my 3 books. But like I said, I really like these editions, and I don't get to go to Barnes & Noble. And when I go, sometimes I want to get a new book. You know, something I'm unfamiliar with. And granted, these books are not that expensive, so I could get multiples of this book and still not go over my gift card of my $50 on the gift card. Okay, so the other 2, okay. I said before that I decided to stick with Alison Weir when it comes to the Tudors in historical fiction because she is an actual historian. Well, Not Just the Tudors podcast did an interview with this author and her book. I think it's her latest. I think it was a new episode. I don't think it was an old one. It might have been a few years old. I don't know. I have to double check. But that is Philippa Gregory, and she has a book about Jane Boleyn, who was the wife of George Boleyn. And she had survived, even after George and Anne lost their heads. And she was still part of the court for a long time. And so I listened to her interview. I liked what she said. And I do think I got influenced by people being like, other people being like, oh, I don't like her, she's inaccurate, blah, blah, blah. But I kind of liked what she said about how historical fiction is not meant to be 100% accurate. It's the author's interpretation of the events, taking the facts and spinning them. And some of the book has fact, has actual history. But historical fiction is called fiction. It's not going to be 100% perfect accurate. I mean, in the end, people are still going to be nitpicky and still not going to, complain and be like, I don't like this because that's wrong. That's not what really happened in history. And no, I don't think she's a historian officially, but I think that's what I heard. But I liked hearing what she had to say, and she talked about, and she said sometimes she's right, and sometimes she's not, and I understand, I think people said that she's not the biggest fan of Anne and other people, but I mean, she doesn't have to be, she's just interpreting history. So I decided to give her another shot, and actually I know there's a lot of shows that are based on her books. So we have The White Queen, and this one is, I picked this, I decided because there were a few, and this was related to the War of the Roses. And this is about Elizabeth Woodville, which again it was either Not Just the Tudors or Gone Medieval when I talked about her. But I should look at okay, it doesn't say so I don't know if this, it doesn't say if this one is part of a series or not, but it does say The Cousins' War. So I don't know what that means. I'll have to look it up to see if it's part of a series. Which, can be kind of annoying, because sometimes you find out a book is part of a series, and it's like, okay, what, do you need to read those books first? And it looks like she's gone beyond writing the medieval stuff with some of her other non-medieval, like Earthly Joys, for instance. I don't think that's medieval. Because I read the back of the description. Now, this once again brings us back to the Tudor period. And this is about Let me see. It is a reference to Mary Queen of Scots. And okay, so the funny thing is I saw a lot of books that had the other queen. Oh, okay, here's a more... Okay, so, let's see. Oh, I wonder if I should have gotten the Lady of Rivers and the Red Queen first. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at this list. Okay, well, they're all because this one also includes this list includes the Tudor books. So, like, and I don't know if it's one that I need to read all of them in order. I mean, I could look it up, I guess, but I'm almost afraid to, because then I'm worried that, oh great, now I'm gonna buy other books. Because these are more like, I just want to slowly ease myself back into it. So, that is the White Queen and the other queen. And, okay, and then we have Julius Caesar, and then the Lady of the English. One queen, one empress, and the crown that would define them both. So like I said, there's a bit of a theme. So those are my recent haul books. Okay, and those are my books that I'm thinking about reading. Like I said, are there particular books you're thinking about reading? We'll have to know what those are, what you're currently reading. We'll have to know as well. I hope you enjoyed this video and are enjoying whatever you're currently reading, whether you tell me what it is or not. I hope you are enjoying it, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye!